What's up, everybody? Welcome into another Big Man on Campus college football preview video. Today, we're taking a look at a couple Week 10 matchups coming up this coming week. We'll take a look at one now and then one in another video. Joe Duffy, returning guest, comes back for another round of videos. Joe, 1-1 last week. You sniffed out Michigan. Nice call by you with that. The other game wasn't exactly close. Listen, Joe, Minnesota, they're legit. You got to start giving them some credit. Yep. But we move on to Week 10. Joe Duffy, Week 10 already. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, it's amazing. Time flies, but keep hitting my big games, my games of the year, including, your Philadelphia Eagles came through with me as my interconference game of the year. Then Utah State under in the wee hours of the morning is my total of the year. So my big plays are having one of their better years ever.
Good to hear, Joe. Great work. Joe Duffy doing a great job over at offshoreinsiders.com. We'll hear about that in a little bit. Let's take a look at 359, 360 on Saturday. We got a big one in the American Athletic Conference. In fact, game day will be down in Memphis. I know some people use that as a handicapping metric, which is not something you should really worry about. People seem to care. Memphis laying 6 here, Joe. Total is 70. And I'll tell you one thing, sharps have been betting this one since it opened. I mean, this one opened at like 3. I mean, it's been bet up ever since. Now up to 6. A wild move up. I guess the thought from sharps is they just don't believe much in SMU. And I got to tell you, I actually I was involved with them last week against Houston. I'll tell you this, defensively they have major issues. Their offense is really solid. Bouchel's terrific, but I think they're a little one-dimensional. All they like to do is really throw the football. It seems like their rushing game can't really ever get going. And I know they're putting up 43 points a game, but they're going to get really a tough task this week for a Memphis team that Joe has been on fire offensively. You look at over the last 2 games, putting up a ton of points. Their offense is moving, and it's really been through the air. Their quarterbacks have been terrific. They've been moving the ball downfield vertically. And defensively, they've actually been quite good this year. Look at Memphis on the season, only giving up about 23 points a game, which for their standards is impressive. You look at in 4 games at home, they're 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread, and only giving up 18.5 points per game. Definitely an impressive, season. It's that simple. You got to be able to see through this one, Joe. I think Memphis wins, and I think they win by double digits. For me, this is where SMU falls. This one-trick pony is going to show some feathers sooner or later. I think it's this week. I like Memphis to win by double digits.
I see what you did there, Jeff. The one-trick pony, as in the famed Pony Express back in the day, I guess. Or maybe that was unintentional.
It was not intentional, actually. I actually just caught that.
All right. Well, Jeff, I somewhat disagree with it. Well, we're going to actually disagree on a few things. I'm not going to go with Memphis. I am going with SMU, but I don't completely agree that as far as ESPN being there and this being a primetime game, I do think there is some handicapping value in that. One of my golden rules is you cannot manufacture emotion. And now that it is going to be on prime time and a so-called basketball school, this is their biggest home football game, in years, certainly one of their biggest ever, maybe their biggest ever. So I do think it has some handicapping value still. I'm going with SMU. I do think one of the reasons for the line move, I do wonder if maybe the Sharps have some inside information. One of the keys here is Reggie Roberson, key wide receiver for SMU, 43 receptions, 803 yards. I mean, he's not only a good receiver, but he averages like 18 yards a reception, 6 touchdowns. He was banged up. Sonny Dykes was a little bit quiet. I really don't think they knew what his status is going to be for this game, but maybe the Sharps do know something there. I've never really claimed to have inside information. I do claim to have some pretty good information. My short road dog theory, that those of you that listen to other entities, you probably heard it talked about elsewhere, as I said, got a little bit better software where I've enhanced it. And when it doesn't go opposite of any of my momentum angles, it's a turbocharged 649, 483, and 30. Also, undefeated underdogs of 2.5 or more in game 6 or later, traditionally been very good, 128, 95, and 6. Although my official pick is going to be on SMU, Also, take a long look at the under. Have a stat, surprising offenses, and it's based on what's called delta points scored. I'll explain a little bit more in a moment, but it goes under at a rate of 165, 894, and 48. What delta points scored or delta points allowed is basically the implied number of points a team is going to give or is going to score or give up. So in other words, to oversimplify, if you've got a total of 30 and you've got a 10-point favorite, then the implied is that the favorite will score 20 points and that the underdog will score 10. And if the favorite winds up scoring 24, that would be plus 4 delta points. So it's a statistic that I do use for sides and totals, and, using the delta points, surprising offenses based on that statistic. In SMU, the surprising offense that I'm talking about, it does go under at a pretty high rate. But still, at the end of the day, my pick will be on SMU plus the 5.5. But like I said, I don't know. Maybe they know a little bit more about the injury situation than the rest of us do, the Sharps.
Yeah, keep in mind, Robertson went out last week in that game against Houston. That was definitely seemingly a big loss for them. They didn't look the same offensively. And you look at last year, Joe, 75 on the total. It was 28-18. It went way under. Didn't even come close. I will point out as well, Memphis, definitely not a very fast team. I think they're in the 90s as far as tempo and plays per game. SMU very quick, but again, differentiating tempos here. I'm going to disagree, though. I'm going to go the other way. I don't necessarily buy into SMU. I think at some point they're going to show their spots. I don't think they're very good defensively either. They were absolutely torched last week by a backup quarterback in Clayton Tune, good for 407. They give up a lot of big plays. Seemed like every series they were giving up a 75-yard touchdown. Memphis is a team that plays fast. They don't play fast. They play kind of that air raid-ish type of offense. I know they mix the run in and everything, but I will disagree here, Joe. So since we have those disagreements, SMU is a dangerous team. This is a tough spot, though, on the road. Definitely going to be interesting. Joe Duffy, before we let you go, we move on to another game. Why don't you tell us about offshoreinsiders.com?
Yeah, well, thank you, Jeff. Literally, as you texted me and said you ready to go, I was working on this weekend's stuff, but I do have a bunch of stuff that I did put up on the website, offshoreinsiders.com. Thursday NFL total. Get a big Thursday night college football total. My Thursday night college football total of the year. All kinds of stuff for the weekend, including a stat, and I'll tell you what it is on offshoreinsiders.com. That's literally 90% in the history of my database. It's all at offshoreinsiders.com.
Go check Joe out. Doing a great job this season in pro and college football alike. Joe, we'll see you on the other video. Thanks for coming on.
I thank you, Jeff, as always.